Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something that completely transformed my life: how to weave spiritual growth into the chaos of a busy schedule, without it feeling like just another chore on your to-do list. I used to think that a deep spiritual life was a luxury I just couldn't afford. Seriously. It felt like it was reserved for people with more time, quieter homes, and way fewer plates spinning in the air. Between my job, my family, and just the breakneck pace of life, my days were a chaotic sprint from one thing to the next. The thought of carving out a whole hour for quiet reflection, it felt like a cruel joke. I was constantly running on empty, and my spiritual life wasn't just on the back burner, it was shoved in a dusty box in the attic. It wasn't until I slammed into a wall of pure, soul-crushing exhaustion that I realized something had to change. I wasn't just tired, I was spiritually starving. But that feeling of being completely wrung out wasn't a sign that I was failing. It was an invitation to find a new way to do things. In this video, I want to share the simple, practical ways I learned to weave my faith into the busiest parts of my day, not as another chore on an endless to-do list, but as the actual lifeline it's become. For years, I was completely trapped by this idea of what a real, spiritual life was supposed to look like. You know the one. It's that early morning Instagram post, the steaming mug of tea, a perfectly highlighted Bible, a leather journal filled with profound thoughts, and at least an hour of blissful, uninterrupted silence. And every single day, I failed to measure up to that picture. I'd try to wake up early, but then a kid would wake up too. I'd try to read a whole chapter of the Bible, but my mind would just race with my to-do list. And the guilt. Oh, the guilt was constant. I felt like I was failing God, failing myself, because I couldn't manufacture this perfect, serene moment. The pressure to perform in my spiritual life was becoming just as draining as the pressure to perform everywhere else. My biggest breakthrough came when I finally gave myself permission to just let go of that ideal. I realized that God wasn't asking for a performance. He wasn't grading my quiet times. He was just inviting me to be with Him. This shift in perspective changed everything. It wasn't about doing more. It was about being with God in the life I was already living. It moved my spiritual life from being one more thing I'm failing at to the source of strength I desperately need. And that's when I started finding Him in the most unexpected places. So the first thing I started doing was what I call the sip and go method, an idea I picked up from the writer Ginger Harrington. On my most chaotic days, I can't sit down for a leisurely meal. I grab a coffee from the drive-thru and I sip it on the go. I realized I could do the exact same thing with my spiritual life. It's not always about the big, hour-long feasts. Sometimes it's about finding those small sips of spiritual nourishment throughout the day. So, the first tip is what I call the one-verse morning. Forget trying to read entire chapters when you're in a mad rush. While your coffee is brewing or the kids are scrambling to find their shoes, just open a Bible app or your actual Bible and read one single verse. That's it. Let that be your sip for the morning. You will be amazed at how one little verse can stick with you and reframe your entire day. The second tip is the commute conversation. Most of us have some kind of commute. That time used to be my personal pre-work stress fest. Now, it's become a sacred space. I turn off the news and I just talk to God. It's not a formal prayer. It's a conversation. I tell Him what's worrying me. I thank Him for the sunshine. I ask for wisdom for the meeting I'm about to walk into. It's just a running dialogue that keeps me feeling connected. The third tip is becoming a chore time companion. We all have those mindless tasks we have to do: washing dishes, folding laundry, vacuuming. These used to feel like such wasted time. Now, I see them as opportunities. I'll put on some worship music or an audio Bible. All of a sudden, washing dishes isn't just a chore, it's a moment of worship. Folding laundry becomes a time for reflection. By pairing a spiritual practice with something I already have to do, I'm not adding anything new to my schedule. I'm redeeming the time that's already there. If any of this is hitting home for you, if you've ever felt that same pressure or that same guilt, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It seems like a small thing, but it lets me know I'm not the only one, and more importantly, it's a little reminder that you aren't either. The next game changer for me was learning to automate my habits. As James Clear says, on our busiest days, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. If connecting with God depends entirely on our willpower, let's be honest, we're going to fail more often than not. We have to make it as easy as possible to succeed. So, tip number 4, schedule it like a meeting. You schedule dentist appointments, meetings with your boss, and coffee with friends. Why not schedule an appointment with God? Put it in your calendar, even just 10 or 15 minutes. Treat it like it's non-negotiable. There's a verse in the Psalms that says, "In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning I lay my requests before you and wait expectantly." When you block out that time first thing, you're giving God the first word in your day, before the chaos has a chance to take over. Tip number 5 is to create a visual anchor. Out of sight, out of mind is dangerously true when it comes to our spiritual intentions. So, make it visible. Leave your Bible open on the kitchen counter right where you make your coffee. Stick a note with a verse on your bathroom mirror or your car's dashboard. This physical reminder works like a trigger, a little nudge from your environment that points you back to what you intended to do. It automates the prompt, so you don't have to rely on your tired brain to remember. And finally, tip number 6 is to know your spiritual style. For years, I thought I had to be a journaling person. I bought all the cute notebooks and nice pens, but then I'd just stare at the blank page. It felt like homework. Then I had a light bulb moment. I'm an auditory learner. Listening to a sermon podcast while I walk the dog or an audio Bible while I exercise connects with my soul in a way that writing just doesn't. Gary Thomas talks about this in his book Sacred Pathways, where he explains that we all connect with God differently. Some people connect through nature, others through service, study, or even celebration. Stop trying to force a spiritual discipline that doesn't fit how you're wired. If you love nature, make your prayer time a walk outside. If you're an activist, connect with God by serving others. Find what fills you up, not what drains you. Now, this might sound a little backward in a video about being busy, but this was the final piece of the puzzle for me, learning how to actually rest. My burnout wasn't just from a lack of prayer, it was from a complete and total lack of margin. I was living with the gas pedal floored, wondering why the tank was always empty. I had to rediscover the idea of the Sabbath, not as a list of rigid rules, but as a life-giving rhythm of work and rest. For me, taking a full 24-hour day of rest isn't always realistic, so I started with a Sabbath hour. I got inspired by writers like Shadia Hrichi, who learned that even when facing deadlines, choosing to rest actually made her work and her well-being better. So here's the final tip: practice intentional disconnection. This isn't just collapsing on the couch and doom scrolling on your phone. That's not rest, that's just a different kind of noise. Intentional rest is about choosing to disconnect from the chaos to reconnect with your soul. For you, this might be a 1-hour block every week where you turn off your phone. Maybe it's a walk in the woods without headphones. It could be 30 minutes of journaling to process your week, or just sitting in total silence with a cup of tea. Learning to be still was what finally broke the cycle of burnout. It created the space for all those little sips of grace I was taking during the week to actually soak in. It taught me that spiritual growth isn't about cramming more into my life, but about creating space for God to fill. Look, if you remember anything from this video, let it be this: let go of perfection. A deep spiritual life isn't built in grand, heroic moments. It's built in the small, consistent, everyday acts of turning toward God. Start with this sip and go method, find those little gaps in your day. Automate your habits, make it easy to connect. And please learn to rest. Give yourself the gift of a modern Sabbath. God's grace is so much bigger than your busiest day. His love for you doesn't depend on how well you perform your spiritual duties. He just wants to be with you right in the middle of your messy, chaotic, beautiful life. Every day is a new beginning, a fresh invitation to start over. You can't actually fail at this, because every single morning is a brand new chance to try again. The goal isn't to add another task to your life. It's to invite the creator of life into every part of it. And he is waiting. So, my question for you is this: what's one small way you can invite God into your busy schedule this week? It could be one of these tips or something totally different. Share it in the comments below. I'll be reading through them, and I would honestly love to cheer you on. And if you want more practical encouragement for your faith journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for spending this time with me. Go in grace.